ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. We are here. The Bills just beat the Giants. We won a game in New Jersey for the second time in 2 weeks. I'm not going to say it was pretty, but it worked. And in the spirit of New Jersey, I feel like I'd rock the native clothing. I'm going to ask for a beer, and we will open the floor to questions.
So you had to watch the game this week in North Tonawanda. What was that experience like, having to watch the Bills in North Tonawanda?
In North Tonawanda? Well, let me tell you. First of all, North Tonawanda is the part of Buffalo that doesn't realize it's South Buffalo. You think that you're great, but it seems like it's like everyone who lives there thinks that rust is a color that you should paint your home, your automobiles. I don't know. It's like if rust was a theme for windows, that's what they did as a community. That's North Tonawanda. Right. Next question.
How did you feel about the Bills' defense on that opening drive of the game, considering after the touchdown you said that the game was over?
Oh, I declared the game over after the first drive. You're right, I did. So after that first drive, when I watched Saquon Barkley just decisively cutting through our linebackers, for some reason, our defensive coordinator saw fit to not just throttle down in the running game and instead respect the Giants' ability to throw the football. It's a mess. They were never going to do that well. That's a mistake on his part, and I did say that was the point where we lose the football game. Next question.
This comes from Spencer Hetrich. What was going on with the offensive line in the second half? Defenders in the backfield seemed like every play.
You couldn't have called a more predictable third quarter. It was in the third quarter where, for the second week in a row, I said, you need to find a new offensive coordinator. Now, this isn't because I don't like Daboll. This is because I'm watching a football team go out there and they're throwing their bodies around for no reason. They're not accomplishing anything. You're going out there with no semblance of a game plan. When I watch what you're doing, especially with the blitzing, so the Giants came into that second half and said, we need to disrupt Josh Allen. We cannot let him continue to dice up our secondary. Because as we talked about on the podcast, it was a young secondary that was going to need time to develop. Well, they dialed up blitzes. They came with creative blitzes. They put pressure specifically on Cody Ford. Cody Ford, who should not have been out there, but he was after Ty Nsekhe went down with an ankle tweak in the first half, or whatever his injury was. I don't know yet. We haven't watched the tape. But the fact remains, they found ways to pressure our quarterback, and our offense didn't respond. They dialed up long developing plays or running plays that didn't fucking work. That quarter, again, when you match it up with last week's tape, should get that offensive coordinator fired. If I was running things, Chris, that guy, he gives Love a bad name. He gives Love a bad name.
Now, in the first half, the Bills went 3-and-out on their first drive, and then followed it up with 3 touchdown drives of 70-plus yards. Like, what does that say to the composure of the offense after starting their first drive 3-and-out?
I'll say this: they did a good job. The fact that they got together, they figured it out, they worked through it. You know. You're talking about an offense that hasn't had a whole lot of time up front. Those offensive linemen are still gelling. They're still figuring their shit out. And I think that's what leads to a lot of what we saw today. That said, you got to give it to them. Because, Chris, that first drive was atrocious, and I called for calamity after that. I called for calamity, disaster. I wanted the offensive coordinator's head. And then they scored touchdown after touchdown after touchdown. I mean, dude, that was it. They were walking to Memphis, baby. They were just cruising in that football game after that first possession. I give them a lot of credit. They designed some plays that were really nicely designed, but I also have to give Allen credit. Josh Allen in this game showed us some things that we've never seen from him, which is the ability to come back from a negative series and not compound it with more mistakes. Instead, what he did was, again, accuracy. Short area accuracy. The thing that everyone piles on him for. He figured it out. And with that, he made himself the winner of the week. I mean, he made himself a legitimate NFL quarterback this week.
Now, how do you decipher his play in New Jersey from last week versus this week?
Last week, Josh Allen looked tentative in the early going. And it took them 3 quarters to find any rhythm. This week, he came out of the gate. He had a bad first series, and when he started to click, it started to click. He was rolling, okay? Like a cowboy. Like a cowboy on a steel horse, he rode straight through the first half to a 21-7 lead. I mean, you can't. When you watch the way he orchestrated the offense, he was accurate with his throws when he was on the run, when he was in the pocket. Of course, those of you in attendance, can you argue with this? No, I don't think you can.
Now, what do you see in the play from second-round pick Cody Ford through 2 weeks of play?
I hate to name a guy loser of the week 2 weeks in a row, but I'm sorry. Cody Ford in the very first series, the reason things broke down was because you can't block anybody, okay? You give Love a bad name. You do. I'm talking about a guy who's being square peg, round hole. Cody Ford at right tackle. He's not there in his development yet. So to put him out there on an island against speed rushers is asking for disaster. Stop doing it. Ty Nsekhe is very clearly a better right tackle than what we're getting out of him. And at that point, as a football team, you have to make a decision. Do we want to try to grow a young talent? Or do we want to put the best starting 5 out there that we can while we have an elite defense and try to go win something? And when they made that decision, that's when we start winning football games. Cody Ford, I don't hate you.
Do you put him at guard at this point?
At this point, no. I make him the swing guard. You want to know why? Because John Feliciano brings some nastiness. He brings some grit, a little bit of fire. When the fight broke out, who was the first person to go pick up our quarterback? That's right, John Feliciano. Because that's all he cares about. That, to me, he wasn't the guy in the scrum. He was the guy worried about where our quarterback was. That's going to make you a good offensive lineman. When your first instinct is, where is my quarterback? How is my quarterback? Is he okay? Chris, it doesn't get any better than that.
What do you think of the defense as a whole? Especially after the first drive of the game where they gave up an immediate touchdown.
First drive of the game, I thought that it was strange that they were giving Barkley they were giving the pass game of the Giants so much respect. Why? I could have told you they weren't going to run the ball. They weren't going to throw the ball on that drive. They were going to lean on the one thing on their entire team that works. Chris, they tried to lean on Barkley after that drive. How'd it work? I ask all of you. How? That's right. I don't need an answer. It's fine.
Now, is there anything to the Bills not being able to, quote unquote, close out that game, being up 21-7 in the third quarter.
What I'll say is this. When you are in a football game 21-7, you'd like to think that you could win that game. You'd like to think you could cruise home with it. The Bills, for the first time in my entire adult life, found a way to close it out. They found a way to close that game out. Even when it seemed like the Giants had the ball, second half. You have it. You give up a 60-yard kick, a punt return. 60-yard punt return. They should score points on that drive. And yet our defense found a way. Found a way to keep them off the scoreboard. Our defense is far more resourceful than I think that you, I, the fans at large are giving them credit for. That group, they're on fire. They're undermanned. There's already been key injuries. There's already been things creeping in, and yet their play hasn't dipped at all. They are a steady force. They're the thing guiding this team at this point. Because, let's face it, Bills fans, if the Giants score a touchdown before halftime, what is this football game?
How did you like Josh Allen today in the passing game with using Cole Beasley and John Brown?
Josh Allen is a mixed bag. Josh Allen is a mixed bag, to say the least. He's a guy who will frustrate you, but then make you fall in love with the things that he's capable of doing. He's been that guy since he got here, and I was hoping for growth this season. I'd like to think I saw some of it today, flashes of it. You know? I mean...
Are those the throws, or the receivers making the plays?
I'd have to rewatch the tape, but I'll say this. Every rose has its thorn. This offense looks good on paper. Yeah, there's some things about it that suck. But you can't win a game unless your offense outscores the opponent. And 2 weeks in a row, we found a way, even though it wasn't pretty, to do that. I will give our quarterback credit for his presence of throwing the ball away. If there's anything I'll give Josh Allen, I counted no fewer than 5 throwaways. Negative plays where you would have lost yards and he ditched the ball rather than hang on to it like a certain quarterback that the media has a crush on for some reason, or at least used to, and now they don't talk about him. I don't know. He was named after a part of a car. Your name is the part of a vehicle. I'm sorry. I don't respect that. You're out.
Looking forward to next week. Home opener against Cincinnati. They got throttled 41-10 by San Francisco today. If you're McDermott, what do you do to keep your players humble so that this isn't a quote-unquote trap game?
You don't come into that game humble. You come into that game with your balls out. You literally Texas belt buckle this team. You walk out with them hanging over your belt loop going, listen, here they are. You want to see them? There it is. When they come into your building, for the first time all year you're getting to play in front of your home fans, there is no humbleness. You go out there and you put your balls on the line. I expect this team to do that next weekend. I don't foresee this nonsense. Chris, what are you people talking about? You're talking about humble? This is the defense that has smothered 2 teams in 2 weeks. They literally suffocated the state of New Jersey. The whole thing could burn down now and no one would care. Why? Because Buffalo showed them up. Listen, I got to get out of here. Thank you for showing up. And go Bills. Shot through the...